A Syracuse University professor likened white supremacy to conservatism. Ivy League schools that were once accused of anti-Asian discrimination are now condemning anti-Asian hate. And a professor called Republicans who are demanding investigation into the coronavirus racist. I'm Ophelie Jacobson, and this is the Campus Countdown. Starting off with our number 3 story of the week, out of Syracuse University, a professor on a white rage panel was caught saying that maybe conservatism is a euphemism for white supremacy. Biko Gray, a Syracuse University professor, joined other professors at Louisiana State University on a panel called White Rage. During that panel, Gray was cited saying that maybe conservatism, away from being a financial and economic and political policy, is just a euphemism for white supremacy and its effective variant, white rage. The event was inspired by a book entitled The Religion of White Rage, Religious Fervor, White Workers, and the Myth of Black Racial Progress. Well, I think it's safe to say that we all know that conservatives have been called white supremacists, racists, bigots for far too long. But this professor is really taking it to the next level by stating that the term white supremacy can be used to replace the word conservatism. Those things are not the same, yet we have this professor from Syracuse University talking on this panel at Louisiana State University and teaching these students that white supremacy is essentially the same thing as conservatism. That is detrimental to our society, and that will alter the way that this generation thinks about conservatism as a whole. And another thing to point out, it doesn't seem as if these professors have a clue as to what conservatives actually look like or who conservatives actually are. They tend to think that conservatives are just white males, but that's simply not the case. Back in 2020, this past election cycle, President Donald Trump actually increased support among Black and Latino voters. Would they feel comfortable calling those voters and those conservatives white supremacists as well? We see these types of stories all the time. You can head over to campusreform.org to look at more instances of liberal bias and indoctrination on our college campuses in America, but it's time that we do something about it. It's not fair that these professors are portraying conservatives in such a bad light that will immediately alter these students' perception of what a conservative actually is. They'll immediately, every time they see a conservative, their first thought is just going to go to white supremacy. And that is dangerous. If we want to unify as a nation, that is not how we do it. It's not by hosting these white rage panels where we call conservatives white supremacists. That alone will not unify our nation. It will only tear us apart. And for our second top story of the week, Ivy League schools who were once accused of anti-Asian discrimination in their admissions process are now coming out to condemn anti-Asian hate. Amid the recent shooting in Atlanta, multiple universities have come out with statements condemning anti-Asian hate. However, with Ivy League schools specifically, there seems to be some level of hypocrisy through it all. For example, at Yale University, a 2-year probe found that in the case of Asian American students, race was, quote, the determinative factor in hundreds of admissions decisions each year. However, Yale University condemned the discriminatory acts against people of Asian descent, saying, quote, many members of our faculty address anti-Asian racism, particularly amid the pandemic, both in their scholarship and through scholarly organization. All of us, faculty, staff, and students, can learn and respond. Harvard University came out with a similar statement, with their president, Lawrence Bacow, writing in an email that we welcome and embrace individuals from every background because it makes us a better community and a stronger community. However, Students for Fair Admissions, a group that represents Asian American families in pursuit of fair admissions processes, recently appealed its lawsuit against Harvard University to the Supreme Court. The group wrote in a press release stating that Harvard, Yale, and other schools, quote, employ admissions practices that are discriminatory, unnecessary, and unconstitutional. Brown University, Cornell University, Dartmouth College, among other Ivy League schools, all came out with similar statements, yet they all seem to have the same history of discrimination against Asians in their admissions process. If Ivy League schools are going to stand in solidarity with the Asian community, then they must be willing to do so throughout their admissions process as well. While these institutions are putting out these statements and sending these emails condemning anti-Asian hate, they're actively putting these communities at a disadvantage when they're applying to enter into that said college or university, specifically Ivy League schools in this case. It seems like a lot of these higher education institutions these days pretend to be woke in theory, but not in practice. And it's really up to the public to start pointing out these discrepancies and the hypocrisy that we see, when they're putting out these statements against anti-Asian discrimination, yet they're discriminating against Asians in the admissions process. And there's lawsuits, there's filings to prove that, and there's evidence to prove that as well. This will prove to be detrimental over the next couple of years if these Ivy League schools continue to not only discriminate Asians in their admissions process, but to actively say that they stand in solidarity with the Asian community. That is going to send a mixed message to future applicants, to future students, and to their faculty members. These students, they see these statements online, they see these emails, they repost them on their Instagram story, but do they actually know what is happening behind the scenes? These universities claim to care about the Asian community and to stand in solidarity, but if you're going to do that, you shouldn't be discriminating against them in the admissions process. And for our top story of the week, a professor at Virginia Tech University called Republicans who are demanding investigation into the origins of the coronavirus racist. Matthew Gabriel, who is a professor of medieval studies and chair of the Department of Religion and Culture at Virginia, made the remark in a tweet responding to Republican Representatives Kathy McMorris Rogers, Morgan Griffith, and Brett Guthrie's recent statement calling for the National Institutes of Health to perform a, quote, independent expert investigation of the origin of COVID-19. The professor responded to the tweet put out by the House Commerce, stating, quote, these racist. So let's start by breaking down this tweet a little bit. I know it's only 4 words, 2 of which are considered curse words, but this tweet is very loaded. First of all, what is racist about searching and trying to find the truth? Since when did it become offensive to try and find the actual story and the actual origins of COVID-19? They're not saying that it was founded in China in a Wuhan lab. They're just saying that they want to uncover the answers for the American people. They want transparency for citizens. That's what they were elected to the House of Representatives to do, to bring transparency. So if anything, they're just doing their job and demanding answers from the National Health Institute. And look, I'm not here to say whether or not I think the coronavirus was actually created in a lab in Wuhan, China, or if it actually did come from natural origins. But what I am saying is that every single American should be wondering where this coronavirus started and how it spread so fast. I think we can all agree this pandemic has had huge effects on our American culture, on the economy, on the mental health of a lot of people. It's changed our education system, the way we look at health, and the way we interact with each other. People should be wondering and searching for answers as to how this coronavirus got to America, how it even started. And that's the real reason why these Republicans and these representatives want answers, and they want a complete investigation, not to be racist and not to be offensive. It's unfortunate that we live in a society today where the only questions that you can ask are the questions that are deemed woke or politically correct. Good luck trying to find a question that pleases the left's narrative, because if it doesn't, you can't even ask it without being called racist or offensive. And like I said, these Republican representatives are simply asking for the truth. They're asking for an investigation to find out where this virus really came from. And even the Biden administration has admitted that they want to find the origins of the coronavirus. On February 13th, the White House National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, said that, quote, to better understand this pandemic and prepare for the next one, China must make available its data from the earliest days of the outbreak. He continues, quote, going forward, all countries, including China, should participate in a transparent and robust process for preventing and responding to health emergencies so that the world learns as much as possible as soon as possible. It would be interesting to find out if this professor at Virginia Tech actually knows that the Biden administration also wants transparency with the origins of the coronavirus. Maybe that would alter his mindset a bit when it comes to asking for a complete investigation of the origins. Those are all of the stories we have for you today. If you like this episode and if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to leave a comment down below, give this video a like, and be sure to subscribe to our channel so you never miss out on another video that our team uploads. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Campus Countdown, but for now, be sure you're following us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Campus Reform so you never miss out on the college craziness. I'm Ophelie Jacobson. Thanks for watching.